So before the break, we were talking about bail reform, and I understand, and you were eloquently explaining what is going on here with bail reform. And reform, yes, needs to happen. Reform, yes, some has happened, but it is nowhere near completed.
Agreed.
Right? But to my question was, how does that make me feel better about the justice system here in Delaware? And I'm not talking about nationally. I'm talking about here in Delaware. Now, I understand bail reform is important, but just the initial, when I mean law enforcement, I mean the initial response that I have with a law enforcement officer that begins that whole sequence. Because let's be honest, whether or not I need bail has a couple different reasons. Correct me if I'm wrong legally. One, I have to have done it, right? So who's determining that would be a law enforcement officer that comes to my residence or place of incident and is determining whether or not there is enough evidence here that says that I am culpable, correct me if I'm wrong, for moving forward for him or her to move forward and prosecuting me or arresting, charging me in that crime. What is happening here, right? And I'm sure that you know, is that underlying first instance or encounter with law enforcement as they're making that determination that sets an end road for a course of events in my life, okay? And how this is going to go, and whether or not I will be charged, or whether or not deadly force can be used, as where something as simple as adjust a cell phone or a belt or something like that that could be interpreted poorly, not because necessarily of my actions, but because of race in this country, an interpretation of past experiences that him or her may have had that is causing them to react in such a way. That's what when I say justice reforms, it just isn't bail.
I agree.
I think it speaks to what a lot of our viewers may feel. It's so much more than that, but it really gets down to that first interaction. To your point, part two, with our current Attorney General, current law enforcement executives, okay? And their disagreement.
Yep.
So we have that. So if the top brass is not even agreeing with one another in regards to how things should go, where I'm expecting there to be at least an accord, what confidence do I have as a person of color in dealing with law enforcement at its beginning stages?
It's a good, all right, so a couple of things.
It's a two-parter.
Hey, thanks. So when I go, what was the second part? You'll have to remind me again. Okay. I mean, I think that there's a couple of things in here, and so the lack of accord. So as a candidate who's running for AG, what I'm saying is what we have is not working. In terms of there is a disconnect that is happening.
We agree.
Okay, right. But I'm saying to the voters, step one is admitting that disconnect exists. Okay, they say there's a phrase, shine a light on it. Okay, I think we need to be shining a light on it. I think we need to be shining a light on the fact that the communities of color, as you're putting it, do not have faith in law enforcement. Why is that? Okay, I mean, I think that we need to be having conversations. I want to be having conversations with the community saying, what is it specifically about it? Is it because of something that has happened in your life, that makes you think all cops are bad? I mean, is there, have you been charged? I mean, I want to know what is driving that, okay? And, and part of my personality, I jokingly say, I'm about as subtle as a sledgehammer, and there's some truth to that. I mean, I think that, you, and I was like this with my clients, when in the criminal defense arena, we would have some incredibly frank conversations, about whether it was fair, not fair, what did they know, was it, is it a good arrest? I mean, all of that happened. I think that experience bank allows me or gives me the inroad, okay? So let me give you another kind of, for instance, as part of criminal justice, okay? And that is probation, Okay, so we've done the beginning, which is bail. Well, what happens in prison. Okay, I think that we need to be absolutely looking at vocational training. I think we should have a prison in Delaware that is its whole thing is kind of a vocational training, because part of what is leading to the crime and what we have going on is lack of education, lack of job skills. There's a lot that's driving that. So if someone is going to be serving a sentence, let's make it productive. If you don't have your degree, get your degree. And get a skill. Okay, the probation end of it. Again, having experienced this with my clients, we've got people who are, doing their time and coming out, don't have an ID, like literally don't have a picture ID, because it's expired and they can't even get, paperwork in order to get that done. They don't have any leads on jobs. They, may not have the education that they need, and I think that probation needs to be more focused on, I'm going to use the word successful probation than violating probation. Okay. Again, this is someone who is running to be the top cop that is saying that. Okay. That no one else is going to say that. That is an unusual kind of, and again, we all bring into this what our life experiences are and the things that we've done. I have been moved by some of the people that I've represented, and in terms.
How so, Ms. Murray?
Okay, well, stories. I mean, so I have had clients, leg cross. I have had clients who call me. I get them through whatever the judicial process is. Who call me when they get out of jail and have no place to go. Okay, where can I go? Do you have, is there, because it's not a halfway house or a work release situation, like they literally have no place to go. Okay. The people that I worked with, and this isn't 100%, I don't like, painting in broad strokes, but a lot of my clients really felt like I was worried about them. Okay, and that I was invested, and I was. I get Christmas cards from people who have said, "Thank you for listening to me and helping me navigate this." I screwed up. Okay, right. And not I screwed up, but my client is saying I screwed up. I've probably screwed up before too. We're all human. Right. But I think that human element sometimes gets lost in this.
But that's Department of Corrections, though.
It is, but that's part of criminal justice.
That is part of criminal justice, and I understand that. But how is that affecting me, after the probationary part, but me at that traffic stop?
Okay.
Going back to that.
Okay.
How is that giving me confidence? Are those options renewing confidence in me as a father, husband, and citizen of the state of Delaware? What actions are you going to do or initiate to establish that confidence in me?
I am going to, all right, so when I say that I want to have the conversations, I want to meet with the Kerwins, of the world that tell me, I want to know, I've heard part of it, but what the fears are. So when I was running for governor, Danielle Hall was running, for lieutenant governor. Black woman, who said to me, I have had to educate my sons on how to behave in a traffic stop.
Absolutely.
And, and we had a long conversation about that. So I think that, part of it from my perspective would be, look, I understand that my role as the Attorney General is to enforce the law. Enforce the law, okay? And so I'm absolutely aware and going to be watchful if there is an abuse of that. You have my promise, I'm going to do something about it, and I'm going to be swift about it, because I know you used the analogy of the bad apple, okay? That bad apple, in the context of law enforcement, breaches the trust across the board. It's, so you were spot on about that. You can't have one cop who was bad, because it taints the entire picture for everything. So I think that it is, it's twofold. It's shining, it's admitting it. It's admitting that it is not, that you as a person of color have a different perception when a cop pulls you over or when law enforcement pulls you over. You have a whole different scheme that's going through your mind than someone who is not a person of color. That we have to be able to say that. And if we can't say that, I think right now we're almost in such a politically correct world where it's, you can't talk about that, but it's real. So I think that is, just the very fact, so I don't know whether this interview is going to, to resonate with anybody, but the very fact that I am sitting here saying, I'm aware that there's a difference and, and I want to do something about that to fix that. So tell me, Kerwin, what would make a difference for you? Is it knowing that all law enforcement has to go through some sort of training? What is it? And I'm not asking you directly, but I'm saying as part of the conversation, it would be what can we do to fix this? Right. Is it having a community board that is, people from the community as well as law enforcement. A citizen review board. Yeah, well, not necessarily a review board. That's a possibility, but I'm talking about just kind of like an open dialogue, okay? What is it? What would happen if in the city of Wilmington, since you've said the city council has, voted that no confidence for the chief of police, what is it in the city of Wilmington, the citizens of Wilmington, if they had the chief's ear, what would they say? What would, and I think that
the chief has to be willing to listen.
Agreed. But I think that as the top cop in the AG, I can be talking to the police saying, this is going to happen. I think that we need to, we can't, business as usual isn't working. Okay. So we have to think outside the box a little bit here. You may not like it, we all do things that we don't like, but I think that we have to gain the trust of the public, because if we gain the trust of the public, that actually ratchets down some of the tension, okay? How do you gain the trust of the public, okay? You have a conversation, and you have action items. Do those action items get done? If they do, yay, gain trust of public. Don't, public unhappy, okay? Go back to law enforcement, okay? There were action items, why didn't these happen? I think that it's, I think that even though the citizen side of this is not, I'm gonna say, technically the Attorney General's, I think it is.
I think if you're being voted in by the people have made a
totally agree with you.
Very strong decision whether or not to pull that lever for you or whomever,
totally
and they
agree.
Pull it for you. The citizens have to be your top priority at all cost.
I agree with you about that. Although I'll ratchet back all costs because the lawyer in me and goes, so what falls under all costs?
Right.
But I think that the sometimes, when you start talking about, so the AG is a perfect example, the state's top cop. Okay, well, that in and of itself, is, could be almost inflammatory, because it says, okay, well, if she's the top cop, then she's 100% prosecution. Not necessarily. I think, when I talk about myself as a we the people candidate, okay, that's the citizens. My job is to protect the citizens of Delaware, okay? How do I protect the citizens of Delaware, okay? Part of that is prosecuting wrongdoers. Okay, that's part of the job.
Is law enforcement, would they be considered wrongdoers as well?
Potentially, absolutely. Yeah.
Running from a law and order platform.
Absolutely. And
I
will
comfortable
I am.
prosecuting law enforcement.
I am. And I'm going to tell you, I've actually talked to law enforcement about that. And the group that I was talking to basically said they were on board with that from the standpoint of, look, if we have a cop that breaks the law, that's bad for all of us. So surprisingly, I think that some people have this perception that that police always close ranks and are never open to the idea that one of them has done something wrong. And I can tell you, having had conversations with law enforcement, that's actually not true. So that's, so I think that, so again, from the, my job is to protect the citizens, of Delaware. Part of that protection is the prosecution decisions and what's happening there. But part of that also is earning that trust and saying, what scares you? Like as a citizen, what is, what's keeping you awake at night, or what's going through your mind when you're pulled over for a traffic stop. I mean, the fact of the matter is when I get pulled over, yes, I actually have a speeding ticket in my history. All of us get nervous, so what's, nerves are one thing, but like what's really going on there? And I think all of that is part of this. And one of the reasons that I think it is an advantage to come from outside of the political arena is I'm not always going to be politically correct. What I am is real. Okay, and I think that, and I can tell you from the governor election, my realness resonated with people. They want to, they may not agree with me. Okay, you don't have to agree with me, but I came across and was perceived as genuinely caring, and really wanting to make a difference.
So with that realness, what would you say to, I say 3 communities, I'm going to pick 3 here in the state. I'm going to say the city of Wilmington, I'm going to say the city of Dover, and I'm going to say the city of Seaford, one that's familiar with both of us, right? Both of them are dealing with, all 3 of them, are dealing with a drug. Yes, that is running rampant, and drugs as a whole is running rampant. That is causing various incidents of violence in their communities, and I do mean various incidents of violence in their communities. The other part about that is they're all run by police law, or not run by, or laws are being enforced by law enforcement executives, some of which have been given no confidence, but are just don't have that connection. In my opinion, Kerwin's opinion, the agenda's opinion, with said communities. As the top law enforcement executive, if elected, let's take it city by city. How would you deal with that? Let's do it Wilmington first. Okay, so Wilmington, I think that, and I can't give you a location, but I'm dead serious about sitting down, basically doing a town hall, with residents of Wilmington, that is, and calling the forum, let's call it a public safety forum. What are you experiencing, City of Wilmington, from that is jeopardizing your livelihood? Ms. Murray, let me just stop you there. Okay. That has been done. Okay. Right? We've had it where the mayor himself has gone out on the steps of one of the local schools here and have had people just flock in, and he, assured them of things that may or may not be happening. Okay. And there cannot be another meeting. We have had meetings, right? The city council has had meetings of all 3 states in all 3 counties. County executives have had meetings. But what is it? And maybe this is a fair question. Maybe it is an unfair question. I'm sorry, but that's okay. But as a candidate that's coming in with a new idea, and regardless of not aligning yourself with another candidate, but everyone is promising change, right? You're not running on the same, on the heels of the person that has come before you. But what is it that you're doing or going to do, proposing to do, that is really going to resonate with the citizens of those three cities? I mean, it just can't be another meeting. It can't be a town hall. No, it can't. I think that part of it is being visible. Okay? I mean, I think that, and I will tell you as as the Attorney General, you have to be careful commenting on current cases and stuff like that. But I think that the Attorney General could be more visible. And could be, and again, I'm not a huge fan of of press conferences. Again, I understand people are used to being talked at, even if they get that idea, but we have to start somewhere. I mean, so from my perspective, I think that, like I said, shining a light on it, coming out and saying, okay, we have a reality here. There's a disconnect that's happening. In the city of Wilmington, there is a disconnect that is happening between the Wilmington Police Department and the city of Wilmington residents, okay? What are we doing? How are we going to fix that? One of the things for me as a person, I consider myself a person of action. I know you want to know what my steps are, and I'm working there. It takes. I mean, it's not. It's a multifaceted thing. Absolutely. And so I don't want. Actions speak louder than words.
So I think that we have to kind of define, what would be considered progress. So even if I've got a disenfranchised population of Wilmington that says, I'm not doing this again, I'm not going to another town hall, and I'm not going to have this conversation. It's pointless. I still would have whether it's by press conference, whether it's by, appearing at a church or something, like trying to, get down to a granular level and saying, I know that you're frustrated, but don't give up. I'm serious about trying to bridge the gap between the citizens and law enforcement. Do we start with a neighborhood watch? Is there, what would be meaningful to you? I think, I get it. I understand that people are frustrated by the lack of action, but
I think they're frustrated by the bodies.
That may be. But again, admit it. Say we got a problem here, and that that even if you've appeared at other town halls and done stuff like that, I mean, as trite as it sounds, it wasn't me. I wasn't the one that was there. I am a totally different personality. I am unlike anything Delaware has ever seen. Who comes in to their political life running for governor and getting more votes than anybody in the history of the state of Delaware on the Republican side of things for governor? I mean, who does that? I did it. Okay, I have demonstrated that I can connect. Okay, I understand. Believe me, I understand that if I'm elected, the burden that is going to be there in terms of, Murray, you better you better make a difference, or my political life is short-lived. But I take that to heart. And I'm dead serious when I say it's broken. We have to do something about that, and I'm open to to suggestions. Do I need to and I'm not beyond. It's not like I'm going to sit here on an ivory tower. I got to go to Wilmington. I got to get in that community, and I have to have the conversation. What I'm saying is that I think where I'm different is that when I go in to have that, I think that my exposure on the criminal defense side of things, the really seeing how things roll out and why some of what's happening is happening. Heroin, perfect example. I, prior to doing criminal defense, just couldn't wrap my head around addiction. Like, how pervasive it is, and how, and this sounds dramatic, but that, people will sell their soul for heroin, having learned that, I think, and seeing it firsthand, I think I can get in the room. Okay? And if I can get in the room, I can get 2 minutes. And I think if I get 2 minutes, I then get 5 minutes. And I think I can really, have the, get some real insight into what's happening. And then I get to take that, and I'm the bridge. I'm the bridge that goes over to, to the law enforcement side and says, this is what's going on. Now, are they going to be unhappy with me? Yeah, they're going to go, what are you doing? And I'm going to say, your job, if we get the trust over here, your job gets easier, not harder. So, so everybody's going to have some growing pains here, but it's got to happen.
Your day one. Tell me about your day one if elected.
Day one. I'm used to answering my first 100 days, but okay, day one. Day one.
100 was coming next.
Okay, I can handle that too. Okay, so day one is a speech, that gives my vision. Of what I'm going to do, and it is getting staff in place, but it is setting appointments with every law enforcement agency. That's within the first 100 days. But it's getting on the calendar. It's meeting with the Department of Justice. The staff. There's over 400 employees. Some almost evenly split between staff and attorneys, and saying we're going to have a change in philosophy here. Yeah, and now. There's going to be a transition period, because if I'm running as a law and order person, what I'm saying is we have to prosecute, okay? Wrongdoers, so I think we do have to be thinking about that. But so day one is laying out my vision of what has to change, and that I want to see this bridge gapped, and and setting up, frankly, it's meetings, with the players. It is putting a person in position within the Office of the Attorney General that is going to be the community liaison, who, I want to be involved in it, but, some of the minutia, of scheduling everything, I may or may not be able to do all on my first day, but then, but I think within the first 100 days, it is, the people are going to see me a lot. I think that's important. I think that I need to be giving updates, good and bad. My job is not to put, rose-colored glasses on or try and, tell everybody everything's fine if everything's not fine. I think we have to, I think that, we have to shine the light on it. And, I am not afraid of that.
Nor should you be.
And I shouldn't be. Exactly. There is, I think, when I said earlier that I'm a person of action, that's real. And I am not one of those people that is going to sit back. I'm careful. I think things through, but I'm not going to be the person that says, what does everybody think about this? Some of this is about the person. When you're electing a statewide candidate, I will say this until I'm blue in the face. It shouldn't be about political party. It should be.
But it is. But so many times it is.
It is, but it shouldn't be.
I couldn't agree with you more.
It absolutely should be the person.
Right.
And that's my pitch. So I'm blunt. I am down to earth, and I am saying we have a problem that we have to do something about. And give me the shot.
Let DART do the driving. DART First State provides transportation that is clean, safe, reliable, and affordable. Plan your trip and get real-time bus information with the free DART Transit app. Scan your phone to pay your fare with the free DART Pass app. So what are you waiting for? Try transit today. Visit dartfirststate.com or call 1-800-652-DART.
In dealing with the parties of this state, right? We're dealing with Democrats, we're dealing with Republicans. And so many times people vote these party lines, but when it comes to this and this, social awakening, it can no longer be, right? So
Totally.
I want to make it very clear that groups of people, right, if they are truly believing change, will vote that party line, despite history. Why? Because the voter has changed. People have changed, times have changed, and the consequence has changed. By that I mean, in no time such as this has it been known throughout all races, right, and all socioeconomics about the burdens of others, right? So there is a consequence related to the decision that they make at the polls. There is, right?
Yep.
So now more than ever are my eyes awakened to how a candidate feels about where I stand in this country as a person and as a Black male. And you could say that with other groups as people stand in regards to reproductive rights, as they
parents' rights,
transgender or whatever. That is, you are either saying I'm for it or I'm against it, and this is where I stand, and I'm comfortable with that. So people are not just voting. At this point, I would say an educated voter is just not voting for a party line, right? So I don't want to think that, just because it's this group, they've notoriously voted Democratic, or this group has always voted Republican. Now, you're going to have those parties. But I'm saying to you as a candidate that is yet to be elected, that is going through an election process, I want to make it clear on behalf of the citizens of this state and the viewers of this show that we will not just vote one way because that is the history of that. I know that I'm not doing that because I may be registered in one party or another.
Okay.
I am voting for someone who is giving me the answers to the questions that I have asked you.
Thank God.
Right. So that being said, this is your time, your last 3 minutes on this show to really convince people, not just through words and eloquent speech, but through truth. What would give them that comfort in voting for you?
I care. I do. And I think that, so to the point about the political party, it was really interesting when I was running for governor. I actually had somebody who was a registered Democrat who said to me, I wish I could vote for you. And I said, well, why can't you? Because I'm a Democrat and you're a Republican. Yes, you can. You can go in and push whatever lever you want. So what I would say to anybody that is looking at this going, who is this crazy person, or not crazy, is don't be blinded by political party. This is not about political party. This is about the candidate. You have somebody that is sitting in front of you that is saying, that has not always been a lawyer, who, went to school, worked, had a regular job and decided to better myself, go to law school, create, my own law firm, argue constitutional arguments in this state, which we didn't even get to. Maybe you'll invite me back and we can talk about some of that. Some of that. I mean, I've argued about, the election reform, in 2015 at the Supreme Court, sheriff's arrest authority. I mean, so you've got somebody here who has backed. I've backed up my conviction by arguing about, with action. Okay. I'm a person of action. I thought that our state was going in the wrong direction. Nobody, from a ban standpoint, from a short-term rental ban, I sued over it. That was the only action anybody could take. It was effective. Okay. This past year, I disagreed with the General Assembly meeting by Zoom and shutting down public comment. And I think that part of the republic is that the public has to have input into what's going on. And in this Zoom climate, you were getting a minute and they were silencing you. I sued over that. Get back into the General Assembly and start meeting and letting the public in. They did.
And this was comments over guns.
It was, but it was, again, it's, from the standpoint of, I am a person that will take action. I've demonstrated that, and part of that is even what I'm doing right now. I mean, I ran my law firm down to no clients, built it back up, running for governor, had to, built it back up, and I'm getting ready to do it again because I have that kind of conviction that I am absolutely the right person. I'm uniquely postured to, from my own life experience to make change in this state about how we're going to do things from a law enforcement and a citizen standpoint. I'm that person. And if I don't believe in myself, I have no business sitting here doing that. Even running for office. I believe it to my core. And I encourage people, challenge me. You're pushing me, and I don't have every answer perfect. If you want to talk to me, we've got a website, murrayfordelaware.com, where someone can say, hey, I want to talk to you. I'm doing that. I'm taking those questions. And I'm not afraid of it. And if I don't know the answer, I do a radio show in Sussex, and I say, look, if I don't know the answer, I'm not going to BS my way through it. I'll tell you I don't know, and I'll get an answer, and I'll get back to you. I think that that's fair. And so that would be my pitch is, I realize I'm not going to say I'm coming out of nowhere, because, Delaware has sort of gotten a sense of who I am, but, I'm not coming from a career politician place. I'm a regular person who really absolutely is set up to do this. And that would be the pitch.
And there you have it, Attorney General candidate Julianne Murray, expressing her views, her ideas of what law enforcement should be in this state. Whether or not you agree, they are her ideas, and they will be shared right here on the agenda to ensure that you are on that agenda. We look forward to seeing you next week. Be sure to like us on all social media platforms and listen to our podcast, as well as issue your comments in regards to today's episode. See you next week.